well. And in studio, we've got the pleasure of hosting Heril Bangera, the CEO of Flame Tree Group, who of course started this business at the age of 18. And he'll be telling us more about how he got into that. Heril, thank you so much for joining us on Citizen Business Center. Quite an inspiring story indeed. At the age of 18, you set up Roto Moldings and then went off to university and left your father to run the business. Tell us a little bit about the beginning of Roto.
Okay, I started my business when I was about 18. I was still in college with the assistance of my dad. In those days, when I was growing up, I realized that you needed running water was made life much more comfortable, and I realized that there was something known as a steel tank up in the roof. And we saw the opportunity to manufacture plastic water tanks in those days. Manufacturing the plastic tanks was quite a challenge, getting people to buy into those tanks because people still used the steel tanks. But it kept us going, and one of the things that kept us going is the interest that we saw with the people that bought the tanks. A story that's close to my heart is I remember at one time we installed a tank in a particular school, and this school was about 10 kilometers from the nearest road. Our people installed a tank there in the school, and when we went to revisit the school a couple of years later, we saw that the enrollment within the students in the school had gone up just because there was more clean water available. And it's stories like these that have inspired us to keep going to manufacture the tanks. Quite
interesting indeed, and I'm curious as to what informs your decision to start up a business. And I know that at some point when Roto was on its feet, you decided to get into the beauty and cosmetics industry, and you're now the producer of Zoe beauty products. How did that happen?
Well, as we were manufacturing tanks and installing it in various places in rural areas, I saw that the population was getting richer or had better spending power, and we saw that the availability of FMCG products was mainly made by multinationals at a price sensitive which was not affordable for a lot of people. So we saw the opportunity to manufacture products in Africa at a price point which was more affordable, but a quality product. So we felt that there was opportunity within FMCG, and within FMCG we chose cosmetics, launched the brand Zoe, which became very popular, and we still believe that there's a lot of room within the FMCG, and went on to do other things within FMCG like the synthetic wigs. We presently even do food products.
Yes, and talking about food products, of course you've recently acquired a food and snacks company. Tell us a little bit about that, and then we'll get into now the other details of the industries that you're keen on going into.
Within the food industry, we already manufacture snacks. This is prior to our listing. We have a brand called Happy's. We felt that we wanted to strengthen our position within food. We see that a food industry is a fast-growing FMCG sector, and we saw the opportunity to acquire Chigs and a brand called Nature Zone. I'm sure you use products of Nature Zone, which are spices, which is a daily used product, and we felt that there was opportunity for growth within that, and we can move or scale this brand regionally with the purchase of food.
And of course you've been on the news a lot lately because of your listing on the GEM segment of the Nairobi Stock Exchange. What motivated that move?
Well, we've been looking at listing for a long time, but the move to list has been internal, where we see, or I have seen, that a business needs to grow beyond its founder. And one of the things is we've been successful within the businesses that we operate, and we felt that one of the ways to keep the continuity of a business is to welcome more shareholders into the business and share the success with the other Kenyans.
When you talk about we, that's of course apart from the 15% that you have let off on the Nairobi Securities Exchange. Who is we? And I know Bella mentioned in her report earlier that apart from ARM, which listed about 17 years ago, Flame Tree Group is the next family business that has listed on the stock exchange. So who's we?
When I say we, I mean all the stakeholders within the company. But when you're talking about the shareholding within the business, I myself am a major shareholder.
All right. So you and your family.
Yes, if you want to say that.
All right. So what other industries or sectors is the Flame Tree Group keen on getting into? You know, we've seen FMCG, you know, we've seen plastics, energy. You're across about 4 or 5 different countries now. Where do you see Flame Tree Group in the next 5 years?
At the moment, Flame Tree Group works in 3 verticals. One is in plastics. We work with manufacturing the tanks and various other plastic products. And then we have the FMCG sector, and we have the trading sector. Okay, within all the sectors that we grow, we see immense growth, because the sectors we operate in itself are high growth sectors. Apart from that, the countries that we are operating are growing very fast. So within the industries that we grow in, we already see great potential. So one of the things that is to carry on working on the industries that we already operate in. We are not looking immediately at diversifying into other industries.
Tell us a little bit more about the challenges that you face, given, you know, the manufacturing space as we know it in Kenya today, the high energy prices. What sort of challenges have you faced as an SME within that space?
Yes, manufacturing always requires energy, and we've had some of those challenges in the past, but we've been lucky, especially in Kenya, that the energy costs are coming down. We're lucky that the oil prices globally are dropping and have dropped substantially. And so those have been benefits that we have got. But apart from that, there are always things that we can do to do savings within a business, which we take care of within the industry. You've
told us quite a bit about, you know, Flame Tree Group and your direction generally. And I'm curious to find out, you know, lessons that you have learned along the way that you can share with would-be entrepreneurs or would-be SMEs who are keen on listing on the stock exchange.
For any business, one of the biggest challenges is getting capital. For us, when we started initially, when I started the business, it was extremely difficult to approach banks to get capital. And even at later stages, banks are always very reluctant to lend capital to businesses unless they can back it with assets. Listing gives you that opportunity to raise capital by selling of stake, but without getting an asset that's tied down to a bank. You've talked about capital, and I'm curious, I was reading about you earlier, and one of the articles said that you are actually not a proponent, so to speak, of borrowing from the banks. And I'm just curious, apart from, of course, the listing on the stock exchange, which could have provided, injected fresh capital, what source of financing have you had through the years? Over the years, we've mainly been using internal capital or internal profits to grow. Yes, I'm quite conservative to not overexposure in borrowing. If your borrowing costs are very high, I think during difficult times in business, it's a great exposure. But we've grown basically by internal profits. Let's talk about Heril, the man. What do you attribute your success to, and what would you say are some of the key elements one would require in order to start and sustain a business? Well, I think you need to be confident in what you want to do. You have to have the drive, and you have to believe in exactly what you're doing and know the direction. And I've had a great motivator. My father has been motivating me, and the people that work with us, we've got great people in Flame Tree Group that keep motivating me and keep pushing me. So if you have that ecosystem with you, I think it's easy to keep building a business. Mentorship, of course, quite key. What advice would you give to your pre-entrepreneurial self if you were to start it all over again? Well, if I was to start all over again, I think I'd do exactly what I did. I think the journey has been hard and difficult, and there has been, I think the success as well is much sweeter at the end of difficulties. So I feel I'd do exactly what I did from the very beginning. At the age of 18, I'm sure some people, you know, would think, if I start a business that's doing well, I probably do not have to go to school. But I just read that you started at 18, went to Bangalore to study mechanical engineering and came back. And you've been to the Strathmore Business School as well. Yes, I have. You know, how important is education for an entrepreneur today as we wind up? I think it's extremely important because education disciplines you to think in a certain manner. However, my parents have been very strict that I finish my education. I always wanted to do business from the onset. But while I did my business, I always felt that I needed to finish. But finishing my mechanical engineering, I wished I'd done a business course. And but business pulled me to it. The temptation to carry on running business was too strong. But later on, as I felt I needed more additional education, and went and did the owner management program at Strathmore University.
All right, Heril, thank you so much for joining us tonight on the Citizen Business Center. And of course, this month we are focusing on young CEOs coming in studio to inspire us with some of their very interesting and inspiring stories. Heril, thank you so much, and we wish you all the very best.
Thank you.